It's Jerry here, CEO, founder of Officium Labs. I remember when I started my first customer service job, it was 1999, and I went into an office every day. I drove like 6 miles, went into the office. I did my traditional customer service shift with the 2 breaks, the lunch and whatnot, and then I came home, right? And occasionally, if there was a volume spike in demand, maybe I lost one of my breaks, or maybe my lunch got shrunk to 30 minutes, or maybe they asked me to do overtime. And what the company that I was working with at the time was trying to do was trying to figure out how to map what's called the demand of customer service volume with the supply that they had to work. And it's not a new problem. It's one that's existed for 20, 25, 30 years. What has been interesting over the last 5 or 10 years is with the advent of certain companies and certain services, the problem has been exacerbated. So I worked for an on-demand delivery company in the last 5 years. And one of the things that I noticed as a leader is, our volume spikes around lunch and dinner and around holidays, and also around national events like the Super Bowl would be huge. So at lunchtime, we might have 100 tickets coming in per an hour. At 11 and at 12, it could be 1,000. At dinner time, maybe at 4 or 5, we have 100. And an hour later, we have 2,000. During like the Super Bowls or during, holiday events, we would see that same type of huge spike, right? And it's very difficult as a services leader for you to be able to absorb that spike with, the group of resources or supply that you have, even if you curb their lunch or if you ask them to do mandatory overtime. You're only going to be able to flex your staff up maybe 5 or 10%. And so I was thinking about this challenge as a CX leader, and I was also thinking about at the same time, what companies, like Uber and DoorDash and Lyft and all these other on-demand companies were doing, TaskRabbit. And what they're essentially doing is they were attempting to map demand of work with supply of workers. And their model set it up in such a way that when the demand rose, the supply rose to meet the demand. And then when the demand dropped, the supply, would drop off. And so I said, well, I think that could definitely work in customer service. And so we leveraged technology to be able to identify who the workers are. We leveraged technology to train the workers. And we also leveraged technology to be able to onboard the workers and let them know when work exists. So then they could come on the platform, they could work, and when the work was done, they could go off the platform. And it was a really novel concept, 4 or 5 years ago. You started to see a lot of great companies come out with this concept and have actually built business models around it. Obviously Talent Place inside of Officium Labs is one of them, but there's also other really great companies that are starting to adopt this model as well. And so what we noticed is, one, there are a lot of people out there that were interested. So the first question for us is there interest in doing this? And we posted a job description on all the normal channels, and within roughly a week, we had a few thousand applicants. We're like, okay, A, there's definitely going to be some interest there. B, are these folks the right profile? Can they be trained? And the answer to that question was yes. Now, not all of the folks. We found out maybe about 20 to 25% of the folks that applied for the job were kind of the right fit, the right profile. And then so C, are these folks capable of passing the vetting that we have to be certified as workers on the platform? And then we found of that 25% that came through, roughly about half of them were. And what that ended up being is within less than 7 weeks or a short period of time, we were able to get 400, 500, 600 workers that were able to be recruited, onboarded, trained, vetted, and could start work. And prior to having the on-demand kind of supply of workers, our average response time to our customers during the lunch, the dinner, the holidays, the national events, would go from 2 minutes to, in some cases, 15 minutes, in some cases, an hour. Which you can imagine in an on-demand delivery space, if you've ordered something, you want an answer on it pretty quick because you want to know where it's at when you're getting it, especially in some cases when it was food. And so it was really important for us to decrease that response time, down to reasonable, 1 to 2, 3 minutes. And what we were able to do actually with our on-demand force of workers is we were able to shrink it down to where a customer that contacted us at 11 versus 12 versus 5 versus 6 versus holidays, everybody got the same response time. And it was all due to leveraging technology to enable us to take advantage of the supply that was out there in the world that was interested in doing work to help us with our customers. And because we were able to respond to these customers in the 2 minutes versus the 15 minutes or the hour, we were able to increase the stickiness with those customers, improve the reorder rate of those customers. So it's really looking at when you satisfy the customer and you take care of your customer, then they're going to be invested with you and take care of you and help you be successful as a company. So really, as you think through the future of resourcing, leveraging technology, leveraging methodologies and frameworks that are proven, where you can tap into on-demand, pay-as-you-go, scale up, scale down resources is going to be a huge lever for any CX leader out there. And we're just pleased to be an entry in Peer Awards on this topic of engaging with customers via technology.